Thanks indeed, viewers, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. We take you to the central region of the country where Parliament opens today for an extraordinary session, and the bill on the extension of mandates of members of Parliament would be at the center of discussion. And also in this newscast, students of Andre Marot College here in the economic capital Douala go on rampage denouncing the absence of practical lessons since the start of the academic year 2012-2013, and Communication Minister Issa Shiroma Bakari has announced an immediate implementation of some of the decisions that were arrived at the National Communication Forum that was in last year 2012. These are major headlines, details and more just in a moment. Good evening to you once again. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away here in the economic capital Douala, where relative calm is said to have returned to the Andre Marot College here in the city of Douala after students of examination classes took to the streets in protest against the absence of practical lessons since the start of this academic year. They were demanding the reimbursement of their practical fees paid to the administration of the said institution, as senior reporter Christo B tells us in the following report.
It is with this noise, placards carrying messages in hand and classroom doors closed down, that students of Collège Andre Marot this Thursday, May 2, decided to boycott examinations. The students stormed the streets, rendering traffic impossible, and these are from 4 lower seat and upper seat students decrying the absence of practical lessons since the beginning of the school year, lessons for which 10,000 CFA francs had long been paid.
L'été était prévu de passer les congés de 2 semaines. Nous arrivons ici là avec l'emploi de temps établi. On se rend compte qu'aucun professionnel là, aucun professionnel là, dès l'inscription ici à l'établissement au collège Andre Marot, on nous fait viche de payer 10 000 francs de frais de TD, 3 000 francs de rame de papier plus un papier.
The college principal, who arrived at about 10 a.m., accompanied by the police, tried to calm down tension. And after long negotiations, the principal finally decided that make-up practical classes shall hold on Wednesdays and Saturdays. It should be recalled that after EST, Collège Bao and Collège Yengen Congo, this is the 4th case of student strike action in 1 week, for the same reason being the absence of practical lessons in examination classes.
We remain here in the economic capital Douala to add that the Minister of Communication, Issa Shiroma Bakari, was in the city of Douala. That was since this morning, where he declared that in the days ahead, a committee would be set to ensure the implementation of the last National Communication Forum that took place in the central region of the country. The minister was speaking while launching official activities for the World Press Freedom Day that is built for tomorrow. And journalists present also expressed worries about the implementation of the collective convention aimed at increasing the pay packages of media practitioners in the country. We shall be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. Meantime, journalists in the south region of the country have started to remain faithful to the duties, notably the dissemination of information to their audiences. And the call was met by the Secretary General of the South Regional Office, or the South Regional Governor's Office, during a meeting of communication stakeholders organized by the Regional Delegation of Communication. Jonathan Babla tells us more in the following report.
The South Regional Delegation of Communication is working towards ensuring a successful media coverage of events in the country, notably the World Press Freedom Day, 3rd May 2013, as well as the municipal and legislative elections, among others. During the first meeting between authorities of the delegation, the personnel and media practitioners in the South region for 2013 that took place in Ebolowa, participants examined the work done so far before mapping the way forward. In the course of the meeting, the Secretary General at the South Regional Governor's Office exhorted media men and women to continue exercising their duties within the ambits of norms. On her part, the regional delegate of communication, congratulated journalists for the work well done during the first senatorial elections in Cameroon.
Tous les secteurs de la communication que sont l'audiovisuel, la radio, la télé, la presse écrite, la câble distribution, l'imprimerie, la régie publicitaire, tous ces secteurs se portent bien.
During the meeting, some employees of the regional delegation who were recruited during the special recruitment of 25,000 young Cameroonian certificate holders into the public service were schooled on ethics, deontology, and the rights and duties of a public agent.
Meantime, the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famdongo, was in Fumban in the western region of the country, where he met face-to-face with Adamu Ndamjoya, the president of the CDU political party, for the first time after their reported political squabbles in recent times. Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akon tells us more in the following report.
Professor Jacques Famdongo meets Dr. Adamu Ndamjoya, president of the Cameroon Democratic Union Party, in Fumban. It is the first encounter between both men since Professor Jacques Famdongo made derogatory statements against Ndamjoya's CDU party prior to the election of senators. Famdongo described the CDU as a tribal party. Could these niceties and warmth be a reconciliation between both men? That is the question. The triumphal entry of the Sultan of the Bamoun, Ibrahim Bombonjoya, into the ceremonial ground speaks of His Majesty in the Noon Division. This is the Fumban Independence Building. The historic symbolic structure is in an advanced state of abandonment. Even the mythic historic 1961 Fumban Conference Hall is near abandonment. This conference, grouping university dons, aims to revisit through debates and conferences the past leading to the reunification of Cameroon.
Now we remain with you, Roland Akon, in the central region of the country, to add that part of Cameroon played host to a seminar on how to prevent and also control the spread of HIV and AIDS. And reports say that antiretroviral drugs are getting more and more scarce, to the frustration of patients, as Roland Akon tells us in the following report.
260,000 persons in Cameroon need antiretroviral drugs, but just 123,000 are under treatment.
For now, what we are doing is we can manage to give every patient 1 packet a month. That is not the ideal. Our ideal is to give them 3 packets so that they don't have to come to the hospital every other month.
Sustaining the cost of antiretroviral is challenging. Government is looking for new approaches to get resources to sustain the cost of antiretroviral drugs as support from donors reduces.
You have a need for this year 20 billions, and in 2015 we'll have 25 billions, and this sum continue to increase, and it's important for Cameroon and other partners fight against AIDS to find all solutions possible.
But what obtains in other countries?
In other countries, they have been able to do things that, would bring funds into a common basket that would fund HIV. In Gabon, for example, they have been taking a little bit of what people pay for their telephone calls to contribute into a fund. In other countries, they've been charging a small amount of money on people's wages to contribute into that fund. In others, they've been charging things like tobacco and alcohol.
Cameroon needs a universal health insurance scheme in order to cater for patients.
Roland Akong, the reporting from the central region of the country. Meantime, we remain in that part of Cameroon to add that Parliament opened this evening in Yaoundé central region for an extraordinary session to deliberate on the extension of mandates of members of Parliament. House Speaker Kavaye Yekejivri, while opening this session, saluted efforts put in place by all the actors to ensure a hitch-free, just and senatorial elections in the country. And this extraordinary session comes 19 days to the expiration of the mandate of members of Parliament. It would be the third time for mandates of members of Parliament to be extended should the bill be adopted. We shall be telling you more on that in our subsequent newscast. Meantime, the case opposing the student union leaders were in the southwest region of the country, and the University of Buea has been adjourned to June the 6th, 2013. The students were at the Buea Court of First Instance today, where they were answering charges to disruption of classes or lectures on the campus of the University of Buea, and also for taking the Vice Chancellor, Professor Nalova Lyonga, hostage. And we hear that the court session unfolded under tight security, under tight security in and around the court premises. Hundreds of students also showed up at the court premises to maybe support their colleagues or their mates. And meantime, the International Labour Day, we revisit the 127th edition of the International Labour Day that took place all over the national territory. Precisely, commemorative activities within media practitioners of Equinox Radio and Television, where, so to speak, where it was a communion and a union between employees of the said organ, that is Equinox Radio and Television and La Nouvelle Expression, on the other hand, and also the administrative officials, including the Director General Severin Chunke on the other hand. And speaking during the commemorative activities, the Director General of the Media Group Severin Chunke, like the Editor-in-Chief Eric Fernand Kwamo and Director of Programs, that is Jean de Grasse Mortaze, called on all the employees to be conscious of their professional duties. The Director General further indicated that the company is growing steadily as management constantly is at work and to ensure that they carry on their duties properly. That was commemorative activities here in the economic capital Douala that took place in the week or on the sidelines of the 127th edition of the International Labour Day. Now we talk sports before we take you to the second part of this newscast, where presidents of Elite 1 and 2 football clubs have called off their strike action. The decision came after a tripartite meeting held with officials of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The championship resumes next week. That does it for this segment of the news, but up next is Talking Point. Good evening to you viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of Talking Point. Tonight we are going to be talking about strike actions of many students in secondary schools here in the economic capital Douala. Recently it was the Andre Maru College that went on rampage. That was since this morning in the economic capital Douala, and it is making it a total number of about 4 institutions that have so far gone on strike, demanding reimbursement of their practical fees. Tonight we have a writer who is also an educationist, Mr. Nchimele George. Good evening and thanks indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Like earlier indicated, I was talking about many strike actions of students of many colleges, principally private colleges in the city of Douala. In recent times, we are already having a total number of 4 institutions already that have gone on rampage, particularly students of examination classes. They are demanding the reimbursement of their practical fees that since the start of the academic year 2012-2013, they have had no single practical lessons. What is your immediate reaction to that?
In fact, it is quite a lamentable situation. I will call it extortion, because I don't understand why our students will pay fees for the academic year, and at the end of the day, they're asking them to pay extra money for practical lessons. I don't know what that is all about. You know, within the school system, we have, for instance, what we call the PTA. The PTA takes care of that. At the beginning of the year, the school authorities are supposed to inform the students, sensitize parents, tell them that when you pay the PTA levy, it covers all of that. So when sometime along the line they begin to ask 10,000 francs for practical fees, I don't understand what it's all about. And these things are even happening in government schools, government secondary schools. I quite remember some time ago, a school, I think somewhere in Edea, had a problem. Students came out and they were expressing a lot of grievances concerning money that they had to pay, computer classes and things like that. So it is quite a lamentable situation.
Is the problem because maybe the various institutions are not doing what they were supposed to do, like maybe teach them, give them practical lessons, or the problem is the collection of practical fees? Because it didn't start today. About maybe 10 years. This is something that has been happening in the past.
Okay.
Students or science students always have to pay practical fees, and even students that are doing this fruit and nutrition, they always used to chip in something to the school administration for practical lessons. So is the problem not because maybe the administration has failed in the school administration in particular has failed in its duty of maybe carrying out these practical lessons?
That is very true. And if you look at what is happening, when we even talk of practical lessons, you know, these are things that happen mostly with technical colleges. Because, you know, with technical colleges and the students doing sciences in grammar schools, they have what we call practical lessons. Practical lessons are supposed to be carried out right from the beginning of the academic year, not at the end. It is quite disturbing that students at the end of the academic year, they are pointing out the fact that they have not at all had practical sessions. That is the problem, which means right from the beginning, let's say a student offering motor mechanics has done nothing at all. A student doing electricity has done nothing at all. Now, it means the children that are being trained, they are only trained on the theoretical part of the system, and then at the end of the day, they know nothing. They are not competent. They have not acquired the practical skills. They'll come out into the market, they'll be jobless because they can't do anything.
So what is the impact on the students that are going to be going, because these are students of examination classes, and they are bracing up to maybe go in to their examination halls and write their final year examinations, like this official examination you are talking about. Yes. Students of second, and also students that are going in for baccalaureate, and also terminal students of the French-speaking institutions here in the economic capital. What could be the impact maybe on their performance?
Everything, it is very clear. These children are ill-prepared to take the exams. And what will happen is that some will likely fail. The authorities of the schools have shown proof of irresponsibility. The students are not well trained. They will take the exams, but I'm afraid there will be massive failure because they will be assessed on the at the practical level. And then there is one thing too. You know, the temptation to corrupt comes as a result of what? When students discover that they are going to fail, they can go around and bribe those who are going to assess them during the practical sessions. They have paved the way, the authorities have paved the way for bribery and corruption. The students know fully well that they have done nothing. And so, while going in, you know, they contact the people who assess them back in the quarters, and then they give them some monies so that when they come during the practical, since they are empty, they will consider them and give them marks so as to enable them to pass.
I think the principal goal or the pride of any institution is to see into it that their students, they obtain the best grades as far as maybe first school living certificate is concerned. If it's in the primary school level, if it's in the secondary school level, we are talking about the GCE and also the BPC and the baccalaureate and bac. If your institution cannot be able to bring forth the results that I'm talking about, so what's the essence, if I may ask?
The problem is this: sometimes when we look at things, issues like this, we should also go back to the conditions of the workers. You know, the school is being managed by principals and other administrators. Sometimes too, these people get into things like this because of their working conditions, the fact that they are underpaid, and a host of other things. So, when you are underpaid, but I think you have at least the moral responsibility to do your work and prepare the children, train them. An educational establishment is there to dispense knowledge and to prepare people who are going to be responsible citizens in the future. So if you get into something like that, and I mean personal interest, you extort, because I will call this extortion. They have seized the opportunity of the fact that the students are vulnerable. They have extorted monies from them. If you get to this, now, obviously you are spoiling somebody's business. There is a proprietor there who has invested enormously, and he expects the school to bring him some profit. Now, those responsible, they are actually doing a lot of harm to the business.
So their principal goal is profit making at the detriment of their students.
Obviously, from the cases we see in the field, there is every indication that even though they claim to be educationists, they don't really have the conviction. Because when a student pays in money, you have gone into a contract with that student. You have to you respect the contract from the beginning to the end. You give total respect to that contract. It's an engagement you have undertaken with the student.
You earlier talking about low income. Should it be a reason maybe for a a particular teacher not to be able to exercise his duty as a teacher because you are not well paid? Is that enough reason?
I think the problem of labor, you know, yesterday we just celebrated the Labor Day. We have problems of remuneration in Cameroon. You know, we should fix at least a minimum wage. The country has a lot of resources. Let us say at least the lowest paid person in Cameroon should earn 100,000 francs. When you take a teacher and you pay him 40,000 francs, what do you expect him to do? How does he live? He is in a society that is competitive, in a society that, in fact, the conditions of living are very, very difficult. So, he goes to the same market with somebody who earns 500,000 francs, 1 million francs. And he has to foot the bills. Keep food on his table. That is the problem. He is therefore tempted. We are just looking at the root causes. He is tempted to do one or two things, funny things, in order to survive. So we should look at the issue from several perspectives. It's very important.
So the administration or the school administration has a lot to do. Maybe look at ways of ameliorating the conditions of teachers. To ensure that maybe the alleged extortion of money is avoided in most of these institutions. And we discovered that this is already the fourth college here in the economic capital, Douala, precisely private institutions of learning that are going on rampage. So what explains this change in behavior in students here in the economic capital, Douala?
Okay, let me say something. You know, strike action. When people strike, it is because they are protesting against some kind of injustice. Protest is not only done by adults. The students themselves are becoming aware of the fact that there are a lot of wrong things happening in our society. That is why they express themselves through strike action. They are out to express their grievances. They are troubled. Elsewhere, some of the students, you know, they may be very naive. They may be very naive, and they may also be afraid. But here, you know, students are very courageous. They know a bit about their rights. So that is why I think they are expressing themselves in a protest manner.
And looking at the timing, we are already going to the end of the academic year 2012-2013. Was it really necessary?
It is necessary, but I'm afraid the psychological impact is a damaging one, because instead of these students, you know, studying now in tranquility, they are out striking. The damage psychologically is already done. It's done, and then it will affect their results, whether you like it or not. because they are already having troubled minds, divided minds. They are not working. And they have the impression that they cannot make it in the practical lessons, the practical assessments. They are going to have some lapses. So they are already having a lot of difficulties. The damage is done. I think what the authorities, the state authorities should do is that they should look for the culprits and sanction them so that subsequently things like this will not repeat themselves. Those who want to get involved in things, defaulters, should be sanctioned. It will serve as a lesson to other people who want to get involved in that kind of thing.
And the strike action stands to maybe have a general impact on their general performance, not only at the practical level.
That's true. The impact is a great one, because even when they come out into the society, they will not work well. The skills are not there. You cannot train somebody without practical lessons. Somebody doing technical education, as I have said, you are supposed to be trained in the workshops every day, every day. Now we hear cases of students going through the whole year without practical lessons. That is unheard of. It's lamentable.
It's about 2 weeks now that the various schools here in the economic capital Douala have been on a strike action, and possibly and probably maybe the administration is doing very little, nothing, no reaction so far.
That's why I question the idea of regulations, principles governing the functioning of schools. The authorities, they seem to be lax. There's some laxity. That's why people are doing what they are doing. Because if you have strict control, you have to make it clear that apart from the school fees, nothing should be collected from students. Why are they collecting practical fees? Why? They are not supposed to collect anything. When you have an institution, you are supposed to buy practical material. If you are training motor mechanics, you buy a vehicle. Buy a vehicle and the children do the training there every day. Why do you ask them to pay fees when those teaching in the institution are the ones to teach the students practical lessons? Practical sessions are supposed to be continuous.
And
so that is why I think the state should come in and punish seriously, so that these things should not. Other cases are happening. You know, money meant for examination is paid to school authorities. They take the money and they don't register the students. You will have this coming up very soon. There are so many students that may not write the GCE. Some may not write the first school living certificate because authorities embezzled the money. They squandered the money, took the money, they did not register the students. But these are people to sanction so that the others should learn from that. Yes,
it shouldn't occur anymore, because
really.
It's the future of Cameroonian students that we are talking about, the future of the Cameroonians as a whole that we are talking about here. We thank you so much, Mr. George Njimendi, for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
You're welcome.
And to you viewers, we thank you for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Join Feneloma Hobson at exactly 8 p.m. for the French version of the news. Meantime, have a good stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you all.